There's guys that know me and my organization and my coaching style and my program and my philosophy and culture. And then there's a group of guys who know Memphis. And I think what we've done is we've been able to blend those two together and get them to understand we need both. It's time.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time to break the huddle, baby.
It's time to break the huddle.
Ladies and gentlemen, head coach of the Memphis Tigers, Charles Huff. Coach, thanks for joining the show today.
I appreciate you guys having me on, man.
You have seemed to gone viral quite often recently, maybe unintentionally at times. You beat Notre Dame at Marshall. You have comments in the media like the music. Has it been on purpose?
To be honest, I'm probably too transparent. I try to treat the media with respect and try and not give them the scripted, hey, we're doing well, we need to improve, we got to get better. I try to have open dialogue with them. I think sometimes that gets me in trouble. I'm learning as I become a head coach, you got to be a little bit more closed off, but that's not what's gotten me to this point. I think a lot of people would agree that I'm a relationship person. I try to treat everybody the same. I try to be as honest and transparent as possible. And sometimes my comments get carried as gold instead of tongue-in-cheek comments. But I stand by what I say. I don't try to tell lies. I don't try and script my statements, press conferences. So it's part of it. I'm learning to be a little bit more non-viral-esque. But it's all more eyes and attention on our program and our players. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and Coach, I appreciate your transparency, both as a college football fan and now as a media member here with Break the Huddle podcast. I've watched a lot of your press conferences. I've watched your coaching throughout the years. You're the type of coach that I want to play for. I want to run through a brick wall for you. How has that culture kind of come about? What have you learned? I know you've coached under some great coaches over the years, and we'll get into that in a minute. Where has that attitude come from, that mindset?
I think, I've been around some really good coaches. I've been around some really good programs. And I think, kids and people in general, they just like honesty and straightforwardness. They don't like the necessarily scripted or, we don't want to tell too much. The way I talk to the media is the exact same way I talk to the players in the team room. I'm open, I'm honest, I'm direct. We don't have a lot of time in this game or this span of college football with the players coming in and out via transfer portal. Even if you get a freshman that stays 4 years, I mean, as adults now, we know that time goes way too fast. And with that, we don't have time to play to people's feelings or try to say something a certain way. I think you be honest and you direct. You tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. I try to do that with the media. The people that I've been around that have been the most successful have that trait. They're honest, they're direct, they are who they are. When I worked for PJ Fleck, he told me you got to be yourself, because that's the only person you can genuinely be every day. You can't be another coach, or you can't be the coach that today is, saying this, but tomorrow is saying this. You got to be yourself, because you can unequivocally be that every day. And I think the players respect that. Obviously the media only gets a snippet, right? The part you guys clip and post is usually not even a third of the entire conversation. But that's the world we live in. We live in the 120 characters. We live in the 30-second video. But to me, I'd rather be open and honest and get the criticism than be scripted. And then my players kind of look at a press conference and say, hey, Coach, why are you acting different? You know what I mean? So that's kind of been my take. Again, the guys that I've learned from, that's been something that I took from them.
Well, I can say here from Break the Huddle, we love the transparency. We post the whole video. We clip things, but we post the whole podcast as well. So you don't have to worry about that with us, Coach. We're not out to get you at all. Coach, I want to go back real quick, because I mentioned in the beginning, I know you've probably been asked this 1,000 times. you beat Notre Dame at Marshall, and I think that was not kind of. I mean, it was a massive moment both for you as a head coach and for the program at Marshall. In your eyes, in your head, was that a turning point in your career?
I think, I think so from a public view. I always compare it to that, and I'm not comparing myself to Michael Jackson. Um, Michael Jackson was great or good at his task or his um, ability before he made Off the Wall. Off the Wall really just gave him the national, kind of witness to, oh my God, this guy's really good. So yes, the Notre Dame win gave us, not just myself, but the entire program, the university, the administration, everyone. It gave us that national recognition in today's world. But we already had good players. We already had a good process. We already had a good plan. That was just our moment to be able to show all the work we had put in, all the things that we had done. And that didn't mean that, from that moment on, everything went perfect. But that was kind of just the national eye-opening experience to what we were able to do or what we were doing and building at that time.
Yeah, and I think people often get it wrong. You hear a lot of coaches talk, as you call it, as coaches call it. Everyone wants to win, right? And everyone truly believes within that you can win. I've talked to Coach Keeler at Temple. I've talked to Coach Newberry at Navy. I'm talking to you now. I'm talking to Coach Mortensen next week at UAB. Everyone truly believes in their program, and we've seen it time and time again. I can't understand why fans think that every year it's going to be different, right? And we've seen it even from App State beating Michigan, I believe, in '06. These smaller programs have the talent to beat some of these bigger programs. It's just about executing at the right time, limiting mistakes. And you've said it many times in your press conferences, execution wins games. And I believe it. I see it year in and year out. It happens. And this next year it'll happen again with someone, right? Someone will beat someone that wasn't supposed to win purely based on execution or not executing from another program. So I agree completely with you there. So let's talk about your transition. You're at Marshall, up at Southern Miss. You turned that into a winning year, 7-5 season. Now you come to Memphis with the same winning mentality. You talked about in your latest press conference that this was holistically best spring eras that you've been around as a head coach. Why do you think that is?
Well, a couple things. One, the more you go through it as a head coach, the more organized you get, the more intentional you get, the more you're able to know what to focus on. So I think obviously doing this for the third time, being starting a new program, a new first spring, obviously the parallels of transfer portal and recruiting and all of those things, we were able to be a lot more intentional about what we were trying to get done. I think that's the first thing as a whole, right? So you come in, a new program, there's a million things that get done. Well, when you really talk about spring ball, there's a focus that you can have, an intent that you can have, and what you're trying to get done. The other part is we were able to stay healthy. I think that is a huge piece to where we are, especially at our level, right? Everyone has depth issues, so we were able to stay healthy. And then I think we were able to work the plan that we put in place thoroughly. We had planned when we wanted to get to certain situations and certain phases. We had a very intentional plan about how we wanted to develop certain guys, right? We get guys at different levels. We got some guys that played a lot of football. We got some guys that have been in school a long time, but haven't necessarily played a lot of football. Going through it, for the third time, you learn how to teach differently, right? So you're installing new systems. You learn how to teach it differently. You learn how to adapt to today's learners. So I felt really good about the progress we made. Now, again, I don't want to say that means, oh, we win every game. There's no issues. There's no adversity. But as far as it's almost like baking a cake. You have ingredients, you have a recipe, And if you go through that recipe and you put those ingredients in the exact way they're supposed to be for the exact amount of time, you should be happy with the cake that comes out of the oven. That doesn't mean that there's not better cakes or there's not different ways to, add ingredients, but that just means we were able to read the ingredients, we were able to read the instructions, we had all the materials we needed, and we were able to implement them the way we wanted. We didn't have many distractions, right? Injuries cause distraction, right? Because now all of a
Sure.
sudden a player that needs to get reps isn't there. So that forces someone else who may not be ready to have to step up. We were able to prevent that. We were able to stay on track. I've been at places where things outside of your control, right? Weather issues, right? All of a sudden you're planning to practice and here comes a thunderstorm. You don't have an indoor, there's nowhere to go. So that changes some things. We were able to manage blending the University of Memphis academic schedule and academic requirements with the time we needed with the players. So we didn't have any issues, guys missing practice because of class, or, hey, he's got to get out of practice early because he's got an exam. We were able to blend all of those things together. And then we were able to come out with a really good feel about what type of team we're going to have. Now, we can't stop here. This is just putting the ingredients in the bowl. We still have to put it in the oven. We got to preheat the oven. We got to watch it. We got to make sure that we're not leaving it in too long, too short. So we still got work to do. But as far as the things that we would plan to set out to accomplish this spring, I felt really good about being able to do that. We had coaches who were on board, who understood what we were trying to get done. I thought our practices were efficient. The players did a phenomenal job of showing up every day with the right mentality. You've been around college football for a long time. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get them to go. Their bodies are sore. They got things going on in their lives where mentally they're not, in the moment. We were able to avoid some of that. So that really helped us continue to progress. The players allowed us to coach them hard, right? So even when they made some good plays, we were still able to push them to another level. If we can continue that, we're going to have a lot of success. Obviously, there's still hurdles and adversity. Somebody's going to get injured, right? Somebody's going to have something go on in their life that outside of football they've got to manage. Coaches have lives and families, all of those things. But as far as what we set out to accomplish this spring, I felt really good about it.
And it sounds like to me, Coach, the three things that stood out to me from you there is trust, accountability, and adaptability. And that's something that you've been able to prove time and time again at different programs. You've had the opportunity to coach under so many greats. Now you have the opportunity to make a name for yourself. It's no longer, it's Saban's assistant, it's Franklin's assistant. No, this is Charles Huff, and he's ready to coach some ball. And I love your analogies, Coach. It simplifies things, it breaks things down easily. Where do you get the analogies from? I mean, you have so many of them. I hear them throughout all your press conferences and everything. I love them.
Well, I have a education degree, right? That's what I went to, physical education degree. And when you go through that, you have to do student teaching, which reminded me why I wanted to be a coach and not a teacher. I think teachers should get paid way more than any other profession in the world. Like that should go viral because what they have to deal with is beyond sometimes imaginable. But when you're trying to paint a clear and transparent picture, I think it helps when you can draw analogies to things that people generally understand. And I think that helps clear up the transparency. I mean, I could get up and talk, football language and confuse 99% of the universe.
Sure.
Matt, period 3, did we DDF on the perimeter? Are we getting off the hash? Are we running the trail gates? Like all of the things that you could talk football, knowledge about. I sound like a wizard, but 90% of the people listening are going to be like, huh, what? But when you draw some similarities through analogies, then it helps them kind of understand the message you're trying to paint. It helps them kind of understand where you're coming from. I think it also makes you relatable. When there's some professions that, you go to the doctor and you ask what kind of medicine you're getting and they start naming the medicine. Is it Advil or Tylenol? Like which one is it? Like help me on a surface level. But
Right.
I just think it helps the transparency. I think it helps bring people into your program. I think it helps people understand you are a real person, right? You're not just, the coach that stands on the sideline. And I think it helps create a little bit of a deeper relationship or connection.
I couldn't agree with you more, Coach. Being transparent, being upfront, making it as easy as possible to understand while still telling the truth. It's the best recipe for life, as you would put it. Uh, Coach, I want to talk more about spring practice and some of the players that you have here on this roster. Obviously, there's only one portal time slot to transfer in. You've got some returning guys too. You've got guys like Brady Cluse, Jonathan Young, Taylor Burton, Donovan Mathena, Chauncey Logan, along with a lot of transfers that we'll talk about here in a second. What has it been like to have those guys returning at Memphis to set the tone early on? Guys that have been there already, guys that are ready to go day one, versus the guys that are kind of getting used to the new way of things there at Memphis.
Yeah, well, I tip my hat to those guys because they are the true heroes in this whole deal, right? A lot of times in college football, coaches change jobs, which I think needs to happen. It's part of the world, right? Everybody in most professions, there's going to come a time where your boss or your supervisor is going to take another job or promotion. You got to make connections with a new boss or supervisor. So I'm not saying that's a negative, but in today's world, it happens so fast, and we're still dealing with adolescent kids who haven't got to the adult level yet to understand that, hey, in this world, there's going to be change. So for those guys to stay, not knowing who I was, not knowing what I would be like, not knowing what their future would be like, they're the true heroes. And I have a lot of respect for those guys. And part of the reason I do what I do and I'm so passionate about it is because those are the guys that to me are the most important. Yes, the fans are important. Don't get me wrong. The media is important. All of that's important. But the kids in the locker room are the most important. And those guys who chose to stay before there was any type of who's going to be the coach, what's the coach going to be like, am I going to play, am I not going to play? To me, those are the real heroes. Those guys ultimately are able to blend with the guys we brought in, right? We brought some guys with us from Southern Miss. We brought some guys out of the portal. We're able to blend the two, right? There's guys that know me and my organization and my coaching style and my program and my philosophy and culture. And then there's a group of guys who know Memphis. And I think what we've done is we've been able to blend those two together and get them to understand we need both. We need the guys that understand, Coach Huff's culture and his philosophy, but we also need the guys who understand Memphis, and I need them too because, I know Memphis from afar, but I've never dressed in that locker room. I've never been out there on third down. I've never been through the season. There's a lot of things that go on through the season that just don't show up on Saturday. What goes on Wednesday at practice? What goes on Wednesday in the locker room after a win or after a loss? What is the fabric of Memphis football? So those guys are that vessel to us, or that information system to us, to help us understand what is it like to wear the blue? What is it like to run out of that tunnel? What is it like to represent this city and this university? And you combine those with the guys that we brought in, and I think we have a chance for something special.
You talk about a blended locker room, a blended family, maybe. How hard is it to get guys to buy in nowadays? You got NIL. We know that NIL, the funding that's at Memphis now with the FedEx, I would call it sponsorship, but the FedEx deal and all that great stuff going on at your program and in athletics in general. How hard is it to get 18-year-old kids, much less, right? We talk about men, but 18-year-old kids to buy in, transferring into a new program and blending together from different programs, different backgrounds. We talk, you hear a lot about it in the NFL. Is this draft pick going to fit right in our locker room? Is he going to mesh well with the guys? And that's just a few picks. You're talking 30, 40, 50 plus guys entering a new locker room year in and year out. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier than people may think, but it requires a lot of intentional focus. That's the hard part. You've got to be intentional about it. You can't just wave a wand. You can't just. I tell my staff all the time, we're not collecting talent. We're building a team. So yes, we have. To me, it starts in recruiting. Yes, we have some recruiting parameters: height, weight, size, speed, ability. But I always ask the coaches, ask yourself, can he make it here? Will he fit who we are? And I think that's where it starts. Then I think once you do that and you bring a group of guys together that fit the daily culture, it's easier for them to blend or connect because they all fit the culture or the vibe, right? So I'm a I would say a music eclectic person, right? I listen to country music, I listen to rap, I do listen to Little Baby, to I listen to all that.
Sure.
If you go to a country bar, you're gonna get a collection of people that like country music. So it's gonna be easier for them to nod their head and dance and hang out with the music or the vibe that's going on. If you go to a jazz bar or a jazz concert, you're going to get a group of people that like jazz music. So even though they may not know each other, it's going to be easier for them to connect through the music. When you collect or you gather recruits that fit the culture, even though they may not necessarily know each other, they're still connected by the culture. And our culture is toughness and discipline, right? We're going to tell you the truth. We're going to demand that you do it the right way, and we're going to love you all the way through it. When you collect a group of people or a group of individuals, players, coaches, whatever, that all are seeking that type of culture, it's easier for them to break down the walls of, I don't know you, where are you from, what school were you at? That's what I mean by you got to be intentional about it. You can't just collect talent. Hey, he runs fast, let's get him. Or, hey, he's really, really big, let's get him. He has to fit the culture. He's got to want to listen to the music in the bar, or in the club, or in the concert, right? So once you get all of those like-minded individuals together, then it's easy to start to kind of get them to connect. Because even though they may not know each other, maybe you got one guy from the East Coast, one guy from the West Coast, they may not know each other's name, they may not know each other's vibe or whatever, but they know that they want to be coached hard, they want to be loved, they appreciate the discipline, accountability, and they want an opportunity to go create value for themselves. Once you kind of get that, you got to hammer it every day. You got to remind them of why they chose Memphis and why the guy next to them chose Memphis. So we do a lot behind the scenes to get guys to open up and get to know each other, talk about their stories, talk about their past, talk about why they're here. And usually 95% of them are telling the exact same story. They're singing the exact same song with a different, tune. And that starts to open their eyes like, oh, well, I thought you just transferred from the West Coast because, you wanted to come here. No, you actually came here looking for an opportunity. You wanted to be coached hard. You like discipline. You want to do things the right way. And that starts to draw the lines of connectivity.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. And I'm sure it's very, very difficult in such a short amount of time to do so because, especially in your case, you come in later on to this program and you've only got, what, a few weeks, a month, 2 months to get figured out who's coming in, who's leaving, all of those logistics. You got to build your staff. You got to trust the people around you. You've got to delegate properly to your staff around you to trust them to bring in the right guys too. So it's a team effort, and that's the beautiful thing about football. It's a team effort, right? The quarterback, the offensive lineman, the kicker, the long snapper, everyone plays a part in it. Special teams, defense, whatever. Everyone plays a part in it. You all got to come together very quickly for the same cause. Sounds like you've done a great job of doing that so far. Coach Huff, let's talk about your transfers a little bit more in depth. You bring in a lot of guys, 50 plus transfers this year. I believe 17 from Southern Miss follow you, which to me speaks of the kind of coach you are, the kind of man you are on and off the field, how players connect with you almost as a father figure. Can you talk about real quickly what that means to you for those guys to trust you, to follow you to a new program just after 1 year being there?
Yeah, I think it means you're doing things the right way. And I think it means that the players respect you. They don't really care if your name is Saban or Johnson or Huff. But they want to be with someone that they can trust, and they want to be with someone that they respect. And I think that shows that there's a bunch of guys that respect not only me, but our process and our people. All of those guys had opportunities to go other places and make a lot more money, but they chose to come to a person that they trusted with their career. And that's a heavy crown to wear, because I can't just wave a wand and magically make all of them, NFL first round draft picks. But I can make sure on a daily basis that I'm giving them the tools they need to be successful in life. And I think that's what they respect and appreciate. And that's what, has been, and that's not just me. And I'm saying me as in the entire organization, our strength coach, our trainers, our coaches, our staff. They know that they trust this process. And trusting the process is the first step to being successful.
Yeah, I agree completely. Let's talk about some of these transfers. You got Aaron Nolan coming in, who I've thought has been a great quarterback, highly recruited, didn't get the chance that he wanted at South Carolina. Obviously, Sellers is a great player in his own right. Dallin Hayden starts at Ohio State, ends up at Colorado. Now he comes back to you. What's it like having those type of guys in your locker room as transfers to kind of get the culture rolling, to have that veteran leadership in the locker room, so to speak?
Well, I think for them and a lot of players, experience is the greatest teacher. And I'm not just talking experience on the field. I'm talking experience through different organizations, through different processes with different coaches. So they're able to use those experiences positively and negatively that they've had in their past to know, okay, this is what I need to do to give myself a better chance to create value. And this is the type of people that I need around me. When they were going through the process, they were getting recruited by multiple schools. But their experience at the other places kind of helped drive them towards us. We didn't tell any of them they were going to start. We didn't tell any of them we were going to give them anything. We told them we were going to be honest. We're going to coach them hard. We're going to love them hard. If you're the best player, you'll play. It's not that hard, right? If you're not, you won't. It's simple. But sometimes I think, I don't know if kids actually hear that. And then I don't know if they trust it when they hear it. Those two guys with many others were able to trust what we said, and I think when you talk to them, no guy that we recruit will ever say, well, coach told me I was going to start, or coach told me I was going to be the first team. What they said is coach was honest with me. And I think their experiences at other places, some positive, some negative, help them see and feel honesty probably more rapidly than maybe in the past.
Yeah, and competition breeds a very great culture, right? Because iron sharpens iron, and it brings the best out of these players. Sounds like they've been doing it this spring. You've got a great quarterback room going on. You've got Aaron Nolan. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Marcus Stokes and Denzel Gardner. You got a great running back crew with Hayden and Covey and Carter. You've got things shaping out pretty good for the fall, Coach. How do you feel heading into the fall? I know you said summer's on the guys to take care of themselves, to stay into shape, phase 1 and 2 to get ready for the fall. How do you feel going into summer workouts?
Yeah, I feel good about our team. People have asked me, I'm not a prediction guy, and I know here in another month there's going to be, it's talking season and predictions and polls and rankings, and I get it. That's what college football has created, and that's the energy that it creates. I'm not a guy that I don't know. I don't know the league well enough to say, hey, we're going to be great. I do know what I see every day. I see us making strides in the right direction. I know what it takes to win. I've won at a high level. I've been a part of winning at a high level. I've also lost at a high level. When I was at Western Michigan, we were 1-11. So I know like what it looks like. I don't know the league well enough to know, especially in today's world, right? Everyone's got 70 new players and new coaches and new staff. So I don't know the league well enough to know, hey, we're going to be number 2 in the conference or 1 in the conference. But I know what I see on a daily basis is guys who are making conscious choices and decisions to go out and be the best version of themselves every day. If we can keep doing that throughout the summer and throughout fall camp, we'll be happy with the results. Now, we can't control what opponent A or B or C is doing, but we can control what we're doing. If we stop doing that, if we stop coming out every day and trying to improve, we're not going to have a good year. But what I've seen so far is our guys have shown the ability to string consistent days, weeks, phases together. And if we can stay on that path, coaches have a lot to do with that. Organization has a lot to do with that. If we can stay on that path, we will like the results.
Yeah, we really appreciate you joining the show again today, Coach Huff. Two quick questions for you, real quick. You've been very vocal, and this isn't a gotcha moment, by the way. This is just me wanting to pick your brain a little bit. Unbiased, of course. There's been a lot of talk about playoff expansion recently. Is it going to be 12? Is it going to be 24? Where's the right number in between?
I'm indifferent.
Okay.
And here's why. There's way too many things that are involved in expanding. There's way too many things that are involved in not expanding. I think there's pros and cons to both. My philosophy is tell me how many teams are getting in the playoffs, 12, 24, 64, 72, everybody, whatever we want to do. That's best for college football. And spot the ball and let's go play. That's my philosophy, right? I am not high enough up in the coaching ranks to have an opinion of that level or that levity. So I'm indifferent. The college, the group of 6 playoffs, same thing. I'm indifferent. I want to play with the big boys, right? I don't want to play little league baseball and then try and get to travel ball, right? I want to play with the big boys. Now, is there a lot of adversity and hurdles and things that come along with that? Absolutely. It's that way in life, right? I tell my players all the time, if you want to create value for yourself, you have to wake up every single day and do it. So we are focused here at Memphis on waking up every single day and finding a way for them not to count us out. If it's 12, we've got to win every game. If it's 24, we've got to win every game. If it's a group of 6 playoffs, we got to win every game. So regardless of what the decisions are, and I think there are some phenomenal, highly educated people that are weighing the options on all of it. And I think they have a very tough task because there's detrimental pros and cons to both. But here at little old Memphis, spot the ball, tell us how many get in, and we're going to try to fight a way to get in. Because that's the way I've grown up living life. I've grown up living life. There's not a lot of African-American head coaches. So I can say and complain about not getting opportunities, and I can complain about there should be more, and there should be. Or I can wake up every single day and create value so that I am one of the few African-American head coaches. I can wake up every single day and make sure I continue to win so that they can't fire me. So all of the things that I've grown up thinking and learning and the experiences that I've had have always been, don't complain about the road, find a way to get down it. And that's what we tell our players. So I'm indifferent. Don't put me on either side, left or right. I am right smack dab in the middle. That's probably a very non-viral statement, right? Because you'd rather have 10 people come out for 24, 10 people come out for 12, and, oh, this coach is right or wrong. Tell me how many get in. Tell me what time the game starts, and we're going to go win. If we win all our games, they can't keep us out, whether it's 12, 24, 6, 4, whatever it is. And if they do keep us out, then we got to find a way to be better. We got to schedule different. We got to schedule, more P4 teams so we go win those games so they can't keep us out. I just think there's a lot of unintended consequences that come from either decision.
Sure.
And there's some decisions that have been made in college football where the toothpaste gets out of the bottle, then we're trying to pull it back, then we're trying to figure out where we are. To me, let the people who have done the research and the people who have more data than me figure out 12, 24, 64. I tell people all the time, like, we're going to get to 24 and then they're going to say 64 or 28 or 32, right? Look at college basketball. There's 64 teams that get in, and there's still shows that talk about the bubble teams.
They are, yeah.
Well, now they're going to add, 8, 7, 4 more, right? And there's still going to be shows that talk about the bubble team. So I think whatever happens, there's always going to be the appetite for more. I am with you. college football, I think, is good for the universe, but sometimes more right now is not always best. And I think we just got to make sure whatever decision we make, it allows us to be able to be successful long term in this sport that's so great.
Well, Coach Huff, I feel like I could talk to you for hours and hours on end if we had the time, but I won't. I won't do that to you. I promise. Coach, really appreciate you joining the show today. I love your analogies, love your mentality, love your take on life. Again, I'm here to say unbiasedly, like I'm the type of guy I would love to play for you and your program wherever you go. You're the type of coach that you just want to run through a brick wall for. I can't wait to see what you guys do this year. Best of luck to you and your program, and really appreciate you joining Break the Huddle today. Just real quick before I let you go, Coach, if you could let the fans know it's time to break the huddle.
Absolutely, man. It's time to break the huddle.
Ladies and gentlemen, head coach for the Memphis Tigers, Coach Charles Huff.